Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. It is Tuesday, the 28th of July. Oh, how time flies. Alan Ruff, Alison McConnell and Darren Jackson all here with us. Ali looking cool as a cucumber, only maybe a couple of days away from her lockdown haircut. Darren's been delivering milk tray, and as you can see, Roughie is looking as if he's about to burst into a Val Doonican song. So there we have it. That's the team already. Roughie, are you ready to rock and roll? There's always a statement on the programme, Roughie, to look forward to.
Yes, no doubt. I read some of the stuff in the papers this morning. I'm sure there will be a statement will come out. I don't think both clubs are particularly happy with the decision, as you can imagine. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yep, absolutely. Well, you wait no longer, Roughie. I might as well read it out to you. Here's the statement from Anne Budge. Not happy with the outcome, as you can imagine. What has been allowed to happen where fellow member clubs and their governing bodies have allowed disproportionate financial damage to be imposed on three of its members can only be described as shameful, as indeed should the SPFL's recent self-congratulatory statement. For too long, chairmen and owners have stood on the sidelines bemoaning the decision-making processes, the perceived lack of leadership, the lack of commercialism, the general shortcomings, as they see it, of Scottish football. However, if they really want things to change, it will take more than words. They will have to stand up and be counted. We tried to do just that. Unfortunately, the very fact that we tried and lost will cause many others to be even more wary. We will suffer serious financial losses, but we will survive and we will come through this stronger than ever. We look forward to celebrating a successful year, culminating in winning the championship and getting back to where we belong. And she went on to thank all of the fans and sponsors of Hearts, saying, I'm sorry we didn't win the battle, but as we all know, it is winning the war that counts. There you are. I've been 100% in our camp. We've said it till the cows come home about the injustice on it, but clearly she's still fizzing, Roughie.
Yeah, I can quite believe she would be, and she talked about the finances. We know that Hearts have got an enormous wage bill and enormous staff to look after. It's unfortunate that people will lose their jobs through this. I think that's the main thing. Hearts as a football club will survive. She's quite right. They've got a support that will make sure they will survive. But I think it's everything else that goes along with it, that the bad taste in the mouth. I think everybody to a man, right from the first day, said 14, 10, 10, 10. That's the way ahead. For whatever reason, a lot of clubs had their own reasons for not voting for that. We all thought it was reconstruction was the best way ahead for everybody. Give all the divisions a new lease of life. Give two clubs, in particular, Kelty and Brora, a fresh start in the big leagues. But as we all know now that most of the clubs voted for their own position. And I think we all can get our heads around why some of them did that. But it would have been nice if they'd went along with the way that everybody thought we should have went, and that was league reconstruction.
Yep, well, it's dead in the water now, and we have to look forward to the new season. Everybody has to get on with it, as Roughie has said on countless occasions, taking the medicine, bitter one to actually swallow, but nevertheless, that's what's happening. On YouTube, hi to Paul Baird, he's in Derry, no less. Hi to you, Paul. David McGowan, thanks for joining us, David, on our YouTube. Stephen Cannon, David Frew as well, who says, well, her war is in the championship. So no real sympathy there from David on this one. Hi to Kevin McSweeney, who's in Dublin, no less. Lots of people joining us from all over the world. It's as simple as that, and we really do appreciate the fact that you subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. The figures are in. They've been absolutely magnificent in lockdown and prior to that. The figures just keep building and building. So thanks to everyone on YouTube, and of course thanks to everyone on Facebook. You can like, share and follow us as well. And I always like to keep everything up to date, because quite simply, lots of things come through on a regular basis. from our reporter Cheryl, who keeps us up to date, and we'll try and read out as many of those stories as they come in over the course of this programme. Anyway, now, thanks to Peter Cambridge for joining us. Also, Steve Black from Azerbaijan, sunny Azerbaijan. Hi, Steve. Who am I to doubt you're in Azerbaijan? There could be somebody who's just at the wind up and come up with a country. Who cares? It's great to have you on anyway, definitely. Dave Edwards is with his mate Brian, and they're in Western Australia. Thank you for joining us. And also, Frankie Harley says, what do you mean some clubs? Who are you referring to, Roughie? Name them. Don't worry about it, Frankie. We've named them regularly. All over the place in the last 3 to 4 months with regards to this whole situation. Anyway, Darren Jackson, you're sporting your milk tray outfit, you're looking dapper. It looks as if you're just about to jump off the top of your house onto a speeding boat and avoid a huge explosion. It's great to have you with us. The Scottish Premiership players are going to take a knee this weekend, which I think is a tremendous show of solidarity and continues what the English Premiership has been doing as well.
Yes, of course it is, Peter. We have to follow suit. We have to respect everybody, and we have to fight against what's right. And this has been great to see what's happening, especially in England, and it gives the Scottish players to show their respect as well, and their fight against. You're a big part of it, Peter. The fight against racism, and we're all in this fight together. We all want the best. And we all want it to go away. And the only way we can do that is everybody standing up to it.
Yeah, absolutely, and continually mentioning it as we do on a regular basis on this programme. I hope I don't bore too many people with it, but we've decided to consistently mention the positive. I have to say, Dan, I'm just looking at there, the only thing possibly missing is just a white cat, and you can plot how Spectre are going to actually make their next move. I don't know about you, Roughie. I mean, it's classic John Barry there, isn't it? I mean, he's a villain sitting there. It's absolutely magnificent. I have to say, there's a nice little mention there, and I can't remember who it was. It was Michael Climey who says, Peter, I just want to say that Gabriel done a great job last week in your absence. Hope you enjoyed your week off. Well, Gabriel will be doing lots more for us on PLZ Soccer. Great lad, great part of our team. So next up, let's have a look, Alison, and get your thoughts. Fans are not going to be in the stadium. And they're obviously going to look to this pay-per-view, which is an option, as well as have the Sky Sports coverage and, of course, the home games on their season ticket. So this is what the clubs are basically looking to pay-per-view. Hamilton, £15, Motherwell, 12, Killie, St Mirren and Dundee United, £12.50. Livingston, 20 quid for their pay-per-view. St Johnstone's £17.50. Hibs are going to do a game-by-game, although I'm not sure they're going to get this weekend's covered. Aberdeen, Ross County, Celtic and Rangers still to be confirmed, Ali.
Yeah, I think it's quite steep. I think first and foremost, I think you want to think that we're on a road towards getting fans back into stadiums as quickly as possible. But I think the fragility of that was exposed last week when we had the scare at St Mirren, and it just revealed how tenuous it is at the minute, and how it remains very, very much baby steps out of lockdown. But I think when you factor in the fact that people have been asked to pay for season tickets without knowing when they're getting back into grounds, then there will be a request to pay for games on a pay-per-view basis. Most people will also have a subscription to some form of broadcaster to take in games, and when you add it up, it is a considerable amount. And I understand that the clubs desperately need some sort of financial support given the economic impact of the last 4 months. But I think when you add it up over the course of a month, it could amount to quite a substantial amount. Hopefully we will see by the time we go into October. It would be nice to think that we're tiptoeing towards some kind of social distancing in stadiums, even if it were quarter full stadiums or half full stadiums. But hopefully this isn't a season long thing that we're going to have to ask people to shell out for.
Well, I'm still of the belief, and nothing that I've read and nothing that I continue to read suggests that there will be any great number, Ruffy, of fans inside any stadia across the country. And the reason for that, as well as obviously we've continually mentioned the vaccination, but I'm reading from some people in the medical profession and obviously various professors at universities who are studying this constantly is the last thing you want is, an arena where people are shouting, people are singing, that sort of thing, moving left and right as you cheer your team. Anything that can suddenly leave someone open to catching a possible infection is something to be frowned upon. So there's all sorts of different areas that could cause problems, and that's why I continually look and think, I can't see a full stadium anytime this year.
No, and that's a sole one to take, Peter, because I think we all want fans into the grounds. I think some clubs will be a way ahead of other clubs in the technical medical side of it. They'll have the finances to maybe do. I think I'm just looking at my club. Our average would be 2,000 people. We have a 10,000 stadium now. It would be well organised, to have self-isolating there, but it's a testing to get in. What do you do to let people into the ground? And how do you get people to the ground? That kind of thing. That's the thing you've got to get your head around. I think once they're in the stadium, fortunately enough, the clubs that don't have big attendances and have large stadiums can self-isolate. There's no problem with that. But you're right. All we need is one scare. When we saw a wee bit of a scare last week at St Mirren, all you need is one scare of fans in one stadium, a particular stadium, and that's everything back to where we were.
Yeah, I know the press, Alison, have been informed they've got to be parked well ahead of time and in their seat well ahead of time for many of the games. So at least we know what the drill we are facing ahead. Interestingly enough, John Kearney, who's one of our top fans on Facebook, has mentioned here, he said, you should not be made to take a knee. It should be up to the individual, like Formula One. I understand where John's coming from. I'm not going to disagree with him, Alison. It is. We live in difficult times where sometimes if you take a stance which is against popular opinion of the moment, you leave yourself wide open, to almost a baying mob. But I think some people would rather not take a knee and see people do something. Make a positive move rather than gestures. I think a lot of people, ethnic minorities, black people, people who are abused in any way would like to see positive action rather than gestures. So I maybe understand where John's coming from. It's your right to make that choice in a democracy.
Well, first of all, I'm not sure that anyone is being forced to take it. I'm sure that this is something that will have been discussed amongst players. I'm sure it will have been discussed among clubs. And I think what you'll maybe find that in dressing rooms there will have been support for it. I'm sure if people strongly felt as though they didn't want to, then I don't think anyone would force them to do it. That would be my first point. My second point is, yes, I think there is a danger that it becomes trite and it becomes little more than a gesture, and what you have to see is more affirmative action. However, what I would say in support of it is something, it has raised the profile of something. We are talking about it, we're discussing it, we've brought it out into the air, and I think that can only be a good thing. I would also go on to say that I think you had to commend Stuart Robertson last week for the statement that he put out after Connor Goldson was criticised and then came out in social media and appealed for backing really from a section of the Rangers support after there had been quite a backlash to the pictures that had emerged from France. And I thought it was a fairly unequivocal stance to take. And I think it's to be applauded. I think if you're going to move in a particular direction, then you need to explain your stance and why you're taking that stance.
Yeah, absolutely. Full marks to him. The problem is you have to continue in that vein and make sure that they don't come back to the club. And that is the problem that I think he's got with certain people that attach themselves not only to Rangers, but to, people who have a certain preconception of what the club should stand for, down through the history. And then you've got a really difficult balance of, making a stance and not losing certain fans. But I think there are certain fans, as you mentioned, Alison, that are well worth losing. So fair play to Stuart Robertson for that. Here's a point Errol Campbell's made. It should be a set price, £10, like it's always been per pay-per-view. I mean, I'm looking at Livingston, Dan, I'm thinking 20 quid for pay-per-view. I mean, do you get a burger with that and a Coke? I mean, honestly, I mean, you can actually go, I mean, DAZN across in Europe do it very well. You can watch a game for a tenner. You don't need to subscribe. You want to watch that game for the month, bang, there's your tenner. You can watch that particular game.
Yeah, Peter, I think fans have to be given massive credit for backing their clubs and buying season books. And I think all the clubs that will probably be up, I think will be up on what they had last year, just because of what's happened, and they know the clubs are struggling. Listen, people in life are struggling just now. But you know what fans are like, they're backing their clubs, like Tam goes on about Motherwell. Motherwell have been fantastic. So I think you're right. I think it could have been £10 over the board. £20 seems really way too much. No, I don't mean just for Livingston, but it's just, I think it's too much. As Alison says, when you take into account that they've paid the season book, most people have Sky, most people have BT. So it's a lot of money people are forking out to sit in the house. So yes, I think you're right. I think it should be £10 over the board, and that's still great backing from fans, and it's good money for the clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Peter, just remind me. Do you need to have a season book to get the pay-per-view?
No, the pay-per-view is a separate issue completely, Roughie. Your season book gives you a pass.
No, I thought you had to have a season ticket.
No, the season ticket that you pay for, they will give you a special code, and you get to watch the games, all the home games. This is for fans who don't have a home season ticket. Fans who have a home season ticket will obviously want to watch their club away from home as well. But this is where the pay-per-view comes into it. If you're a passionate fan, you want to see your team away from home as well. If it's not on Sky, you're under pressure. You're going to think, how am I going to see my team? So you want to obviously get involved in this. I think it should be a blanket cost, though. Ali, I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, doesn't it? I think it would have been in keeping with it with the. I'm not sure if maybe it's in keeping with the mood at the minute, where there has been so much goodwill on behalf of fans to try and sustain clubs through a very difficult time. I think it would maybe just have bridged the gap between club and supporters. But I think £20 is steep.
Yeah, it isn't half. William Wright has said Livingston's 20 smackaroonies. There's a great line from school days, 20 smackaroonies. William says that must be for the whole family, cousins, uncles, and aunties as well. Well,
Peter,
I'm not. Yeah.
Peter, most teams will be desperate. I know that the fixtures are out. Most teams will be desperate to get Celtic and Rangers at home before we start getting into stadiums, because they'll be wanting to get the £20 or the 12.50s off the Rangers fans, because you know how many will tune into that.
Yeah, I think sometimes, and this is the problem that we've witnessed over the last 4 months. It is it's individuals thinking about, how they can. I have no problem with a market economy and people trying to, increase their profits. But come on, I mean, this is Scottish football. There should be, there should be something in place to say, let's be fair to the fans in very difficult situations here. There should have been a set price agreed. But again, this is what you get, Roughie. This is all individual club owners, chairman, chief executive thinking, right, how can we charge this one price for one set of fans and then see if we can fleece the next set?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the problem we've had in the game for a long, long time. The supporters haven't been in communication with a lot of things that have been happening in the club. Obviously, the pricing of getting into games is up and down as well. But I think every club will be individually needing money more than others. And a lot of clubs do have their own TV, which they have been doing pay-per-view through their own clubs. People will be subscribing there. So It'll be an interesting one to see how many people actually do sign up, because as Alison said, they'll be paying enough money everywhere else without putting more coffers up.
Yeah, Lachlan Gold says, pay-per-view suits me. I'm in Manchester, so I can't get to games. I absolutely buy into that. I have to say, you're 100% correct, Lachlan. Like so many other people, they won't be able to get to games, but I still think it should be a fair price for you to actually pay-per-view for games that you may well not be able to get to. But it's a bone of contention, and lots of people are saying £20 is very, very steep indeed. Okay, lots of other news to get into. St Mirren have signed Ross County captain Marcus Fraser on a one-year deal. Darren, I don't know about you, but I like what Jim Goodwin's doing at St Mirren. He really is, he's making sure, I think, that he's got a good bit of experience in that back four to keep it really solid. I'm really intrigued by the team he's building.
Yeah, I mean, Peter, as I've said before, I like Jim, and I think he was a defender himself, and you need to build a solid base from the back, and that's what he's doing. He's getting a good bit of experience. I think Marcus Fraser did a fantastic job for Ross County. I'm actually surprised the Hearts or Hibs didn't actually go for him. I think he does well at centre half, he does well at right back, but that's where Jim, he knows they don't score an awful lot of goals. They'll obviously try and help that. They'll bring forward players in to get more goals because you need to score goals to win games. But if you're not conceding them, it gives you a chance without doubt.
Yeah, I'm just worried, Roughie. I think we've got a fantastic team we've assembled. I mean, you only have to look at what we've got. Barry, Hugh McDonald, Alison, Darren, Tam McManus, Tam Cowan, Gabriel, as we mentioned earlier as well, Hugh McDonald. I think we might be able to add Florian Camberry, because it doesn't look as if he's got a future at Hibs. No surprise Jack Ross says he's not in his plans this season.
No, I think very early on, we all had our opinion of what was going to happen, but I don't think the manager had come out and actually told everybody what was going to happen. But I think the player himself knows exactly what's going to happen. If he's not training with the first team, he's not part of anything. His agent better work overtime to get him out of there as quick as possible, because he's not going to take anything part in anything that Hibs do. So that must be a horrible thing for the player himself to have been at Rangers, went back again. I don't know who he's training with at Hibs, but no, he needs to move as quickly as possible.
Yeah, to be fair, Ali, as Darren and Roughie will tell you, because they have that same attitude, the last thing you can do is tell a bunch of hibbies that you really love playing at Rangers.
It was so ill-advised, wasn't it? I think he was just banking on the fact that it would be a permanent move at some point once the loan deal was up. And the minute he'd said it, I don't think it was public any more than 5 minutes than people thought, well, you've just entirely burned all the bridges from one end of the M8 to the other.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you're going to get any argument off any of us on that one. Listen, we're looking at Celtic and Rangers as well. And we'll get onto some of the targets that they've got. First of all, Celtic defeated Hibs by 3-1 yesterday. Klamala getting a double, although I have to say he was a bit wide and stealing Lee Griffiths' goal. I mean, 2 inches off the line and he decides to tap it in. I mean, if I was Lee Griffiths, I'd go, aye, thanks, after the week or couple of weeks I've had. But nevertheless, our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi looks at what Celtic have been up to.
Celtic are close to making a double edition before their season starts on Sunday, with 2 established internationals coming in. Their search for Fraser Forster's replacement appears to be over, with 26-year-old Vasilios Barkas set to be Parkhead's next number 1. £5.5 million fee has been agreed with AEK Athens, who he has played for 111 times over the last 4 seasons, having started his career at Atromitos. He may not be Forster, but he is first choice keeper for his national side, and at 6'5", he'll be almost as daunting for opposing strikers. Swiss forward Albian Ajeti is set to join the Scottish champions on loan from West Ham as well, after scoring 0 goals for the club this campaign, following his £8 million move from Basel last summer. Ajeti does have an impressive track record, having scored at Augsburg, St Gallen and Basel, as well as notching once for his national team in 10 games. And at the age of 23, the attacker could prove value for money, and Celtic have an option to buy him for £5 million next summer if his debut season goes to plan.
Yeah, it's that no goals that he scored that didn't really set the header on fire there. But nevertheless, Ali, it's not quite as close as some have suggested.
No, I think there's been some jumping the gun on it. I think I'm led to believe he's on a list. I think I've definitely looked at him, but I don't think it's as imminent as is possibly been reported today. I think there has been discussions, and I think Celtic have been interested in him. I just don't think it's quite at the same stage as Barkas is. I think Barkas is as being in Glasgow. I think that is almost over the line. But I think Ajeti's still got a wee bit to go on it. I think he's just one of a number of options.
6'5", Roughie. My only fear on this one, I wonder if Fraser Forster, has to convince Ralph Hussenthal that he's the man at Southampton, and if he doesn't, he better have another option out of there when the season starts.
Yeah, I think things have turned a wee bit for him if he's not been promised a first team slot down there. That was one of the reasons he went back there, to get the first team slot and possibly push himself into the English side. But, it puts a wee bit of, doubt in his mind as well. Should he stay there? Should his agent try and find him somewhere else? So he'd made his mind up he wasn't coming back to Celtic. So he's got a few decisions to make. But I don't think we know too much about the boy who's coming in. It was a wee bit worrying when I read that he'd rather be a centre-half than a goalkeeper. But that might be useful the way they play just now. So just let's hope he's not coming out for headers in the 18-yard box.
Yeah, that's the great thing about your career, Roughie. You'd never been to the edge of the 18-yard box for anything. Yes. That ball was in. When that ball was in the box, Gordon McQueen made your career for you, by the way. Yes. Absolutely. And let's not knock it. Big Gogs was magnificent. I have to say, just another couple of quick points here. Griffiths seems to have got the head down. I don't think there can be any more slip-ups, Darren. And also, Neil Lennon mentioned yesterday that Karamoko Dembele looks as if he's going to be with the first team squad for the season, just as he eases him in to 17 to 18 years of age. That full year, he's got a chance to, maybe select a few games that he's worthy of a place.
Yeah. I still keep in touch with Lee, Peter, and he knows he's let himself down, and I don't think that there is any room for any more slip-ups. But he's got his act together. Neil's praised him. He was very happy with the way he did yesterday. He knows he's still probably a wee bit off for the season starting, but he's given himself a chance. He's come on, and I just think for the season it doesn't matter. Listen, every season at Celtic, it's a big season. So I don't get how he's let himself down, but he's had a word with himself. Obviously, Lenny's had a serious word with him. And he's got himself back in shape, and it's great to see Lenny. It's good. I think that Lenny was right to criticise him in public because he let himself down, he let the club down. But it's good when someone does something well that you go and praise him, and that'll give him a boost that the managers are not probably right back on side, but he's going in the right direction. Because Peter, there's no doubt he scores goals. There's no better finisher for me than Lee. So he'll score goals, but he'll give him a fright by Kalamala's done well, scored a couple of goals. And see, when you say Lee would be angry with his finish, that's a striker. Go and finish it if it's there. Go and finish it. It's your goal. It looks very selfish, but that's what strikers are. Strikers have got to be selfish, Peter. And so, and there's talk about other strikers coming. So he'll have been given a fright, but him and Edouard, the remainder of the season last year, I thought were absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, strikers being selfish. Well, we found that out obviously at the Christmas party, Ali. Don't think Darren was at the bar once, to be honest with you, but that's the nature of it. Ali, I'm just looking at. I mentioned to Darren there, Karamoke Dembele. This young boy, I only wish somebody'd get into his head about playing for Scotland. Boy, he just looks a real talent. But as ever, you can look at many a club who've got a young emerging boy. It's not exactly a pathway that's guaranteed success, but he looks good.
He looks as though he's bulked up a bit too. Obviously, very, very young and very new to coming into playing first team football and playing senior football. I think he's trained a fair bit with the first team, but it's a completely new experience now to go. And I think you have to be patient. I think he's a precocious talent. I think he's a boy that we've all known about for the last 3 or 4 years, just because he's been so exceptional at every age group he's played in. He's been coveted by other clubs. I think it was a coup for Celtic to keep him and keep him on a professional contract. I know there were a number of Premier League clubs sniffing about. I hear what you're saying about Scotland and England, but I think his priority at the minute is just to make a pathway into the first team. But I would also just offer some caution. He is very, very young, and you would like to see him come in gradually without too much pressure and too much expectation, because you would all know that the demands of Celtic at any time are extraordinary and exceptional. But to come in this season when there is going to be so much tension attached to everything, I think you just have to pick and choose when the right time is to bring him in.
Yeah, thanks to so many people with the messages, quite a lot saying that if he's fit, Lee Griffiths will score 20 goals plus, is the view from Gerard McMahon. Thanks for that, Gerard. Lots of people have got their thoughts on various players. And Dembele looks great, but he's not a winger as he lacks pace. More central, a midfielder, says Scott Stewart. Dembele looks top class in the middle. What do you guys think? Well, we'll wait to see on a regular basis.
When you mentioned Dembele there, I was lucky enough to work with him with Scotland under-18s. And I'm not, the young kid is so far ahead of his time, thinking about the game, the way he plays the game, the way he understands the game. And I think that, do I see him playing an awful lot of games this year? No, I don't, because you've got Rogic, you've got Christie, you've got El Younisi in there, and I think that's where he's got to play. But I would have no problem, or I don't think there's any doubt that he could go in there and play. He's like a Billy Gilmore. He's at an age, he's ready. He loves it. He thrives on the big occasion, and Billy's like that as well. And I just think if Neil put him in, I don't think he's not going to play every week. But I would have no doubt if he threw him in, he would do the business.
What about the Morelos situation, Alison? This is dragging on. I mean, I think we've been talking about it for 2 years. Now, apparently, he said he wants to play in a more competitive league. And talks seem to be ongoing with Lille. And I think Steven Gerrard is now starting to look and think, right, okay, I need to get other players in. I need to think about players who are going to be at Rangers, able to take on the pressures that Darren was talking about for this season. All the noises now, I think Morelos really is getting itchy feet, but you just never know. This is going down to the wire.
I think you'd only have to look at his stats up until the turn of the year and then from January on. And I think that would suggest that in January he had his heart set on a move away. When it didn't materialise, I think his focus is very much on the next step on his career now. And I think when it gets to that point, you almost have to just take the best financial offer that you possibly can and go and reinvest a percentage of that back into your playing staff. I think it very, very rarely works out well for a club when it's clear that a player wants to go. And I think his behaviour, and he very rarely comes out and speaks publicly, but I think the comments that we've heard over the last day or so would suggest that he has come to the conclusion that his time at Rangers is up and that he'd like to go elsewhere.
Ray on YouTube says Morelos is worth no more than 10 million, in my opinion. I mean, I've always thought 10 million was the base. As far as Rangers are concerned, Roughie, get as much as you possibly can. It may well alleviate certain financial pressures. It may well give Steven Gerrard a bigger kitty to play with. I mean, all Rangers fans care about is get the players in who can, I think, as Barry Ferguson mentioned, can play in the starting 11, quality, and people that want to play for Rangers. That's what you want.
Yeah, I think Rangers have got every right to try and hold out and get as much money as possible. We know what the market is. I mean, some places it's absolutely ridiculous. Some places it isn't. This particular club look as if they're selling somebody on for 60 million. Believe it or not. So they'll think then they've got money to spend. So let's push the boat out a wee bit more and try and get more money. But I'm like Alison. I've said since January that this is a guy you need to get out the door, because if we're led to believe that his agent and him have negotiated some kind of arrangement with this club, if he comes back to Rangers and this falls flat in its face, he's a guy you don't want walking about the dressing room. He's going to be walking about the dressing room not in the right frame of mind. I think he said something in the paper as well. He hasn't spoken to the Rangers manager very much because of the language barrier. So, it's just going to be an uncomfortable dressing room for him walking about feeling this. Oh, I've got to wait another transfer window before I get out of here. And we've seen the temperament that he's got. I just don't think he's the right person to be there. So I think he'll go.
Yeah, I think he'll go, Roughie, but I wouldn't read into, and I'm not having a go at certain journalists who write in newspapers. I'm just saying I wouldn't read into too much the fact of the language barrier between him and Steven Gerrard. Football's a fairly simple, straightforward game. Here's your jersey. Go hit the ball in the net. On you go. And if you can better 29, yeah, dancer. Is there an international language that needs that translated? Or the classic line, which Darren has heard on a couple of occasions, come off, you're having a stinker. This is Darren. I mean, Morelos, go and score goals. It doesn't matter what way you look at it. Steven Gerrard knows exactly what's happening with Morelos.
100%, Peter. They know what's. I think his team in Finland have 10% as well. I think I read that they have 10% of the transfer. So even taking $1 million, say they get 1.2 million out of that, Peter. It's a lot for Rangers taking that way, but that's why they're obviously trying to get as much as they can. Is he worth that? Yes, I think he is worth that. Now he's saying he's wanting to go to a more competitive league. If he said he wants to go to a better league, and the French league is a good league, you don't get a more competitive league in the Scottish league. People bring it down. It's good. The standard isn't as good as I say as the French or the Premiership and all that. But the Premiership is a good league, and it's very, very competitive. And he knows that because he's had a few sending offs, so he knows how competitive it is. But Rangers, listen, Peter, I've said that. I know with the club I've been working for, Blackpool, that the work we've been doing during lockdown on recruitment and all that, Rangers will know what they're doing. Rangers will have people in mind that they know who they're signing if he goes. So I don't think there's any worry there. Steven Gerrard, and as I say, the backroom team, the recruitment team, will have had so many meetings and they've sat down and watched players. But it's going in the door at Rangers and it's going in the door at Celtic. People handling that pressure of playing for them. It's okay. Doesn't matter how good you are. It's handling the pressure of 15, 60,000 every week.
Yeah, absolutely. Or 5 or 10 socially distanced, depending on where we go with this. Michael says 10 million is far too cheap for Morelos, given what he's done over the last 3 seasons. I think we should hold out for 15 million, 16 million possibly at least. Any more than that would be great. Just concerned, however, that we haven't signed a top quality central midfielder yet, as we're not good enough in the middle of the park. Well, I think he's looking at Bongani Zungu from Amiens in the French league, Alison. But it's like everything else. You can rhyme off names and say he's 3.5 million, 4 million. The proof is in the pudding. Once you see them kick the ball, I've heard some professional footballers, Alison, say that they can tell within 3 or 4 training sessions whether the manager's signed a dud or not.
Absolutely. I think that he needs cover in there. I would agree with the fact that he needs cover in there, but to go back to the subject of money for players, I think you're worth whatever someone is prepared to pay for you. We can sit here and discuss whether he's worth 5 or whether Morelos is worth 10 or 15, but ultimately it matters not a jot. The only thing that matters is that a club is actually prepared to come in and say, here's the money, this is what we are willing to pay. And if you're talking about accepting certain offers, then you need more than one club to come in. You need someone else to be there to exact a bit of pressure to get the absolute maximum value. Other than that, you have to accept that there will be a ceiling. If there's one club that comes in, there will be a ceiling. In terms of then reinvesting it, yes, I think a central midfielder would be a sensible choice. But also, if you lose Morelos, where do you go? I know we've spoken about Lyndon Dykes coming in and going to Rangers, but would he be an adequate replacement? Would you need someone else? Would you want to go for a more high-profile player to come in a season where you're going to be under pressure and you need someone to come in and score goals immediately?
If I was Steven Gerrard, and I was actually looking at a situation where I wanted to sign players and I had a list, I would have 4 on that list, Roughie, to be perfectly honest with you. I'd have a centre half. I certainly would have a midfielder, somebody who's really good on that ball and will take it from back 4 and build the play. They're thin on the ground, I accept that, but I would look for a centre half, a central midfielder, and 2 strikers. With Morelos gone, that's what I would be. That's what I would be looking at.
Yeah, well, I think Rangers are impressed with Hadji. I think they've got a signing there that will make a difference to them. I think another signing like a Hadji coming in there would obviously make a bigger difference. But to get back to the centre forward situation, I said it yesterday. I don't care who they buy and who they bring in. You better score 25 to 30 goals a season, or Rangers aren't going to be anywhere near Celtic. So it has to be somebody that they buy. I don't know how much it will be, but you have to score goals, and that's a must. So I think whoever it is, there's a lot of pressure on him when he comes in. I think we all agree that Defoe's not going to go through a whole season without picking up a wee niggling here or there. So this guy needs to be scoring goals right for the very, very start.
Yeah, there's no bedding in. Darren, what was the longest you managed to go through since you signed for a club and hadn't scored a goal yet? What was the longest period?
About a year.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. I don't know.
No, I think it might have been, Dundee United. I got injured. I broke my ankle on my debut for Dundee United, so I didn't.
Right.
That
doesn't
was
count.
December the 22nd. So I didn't play till the following season. But I think it was Hibs. Actually, my first goal for Dundee United was against Hibs, and my first goal for Hibs was against Dundee United. And I think I was 8 games, and when I got my first goal. So listen, you don't get bedding in. We're talking about two strikers, Peter. I like Lyndon Dykes. I think he's a really good striker. But the formation Stephen plays, I don't think you could play him up on his own, because I don't think he will get you 30 goals. I think he could get you maybe 15 goals, but with someone playing beside him, they could maybe get 20, 25 goals. It's like Peter, the Sutton and Larsson was a different partnership for Hartson and Sutton, where John Hartson would always score more goals than Sutton would, because Sutton was always the one who was laying it off, and so it's different partnerships. And I don't think Lyndon Dykes could be the main striker. I think he would need to change the formation.
Yeah, he did mention to us on the programme over the summer that he'd be happy to do anything, plays the lone striker, but as you say, that might not suit him. And I remember those times, Roughie. I was the reporter at Radio 4th at the Hearts and Hibs games when Darren went through that 8-game period without scoring at Hibs. And I had to be honest, Roughie, on the show, I just said, this guy's murder, you need to get rid of him. He needs to go, by the way. Get Brian Hamilton back in. It's as simple. It's as simple as that.
I'm sure.
Can't he go 8 games at the Hibbies without scoring?
I'm sure Darren's work rate would have compensated for the goals that he never scored, and somebody else would have benefited the way that Darren played.
Well, Peter, I actually scored. That was my first competitive goal. I actually scored in my first game when we played Blackburn Rovers. And it was Alan Shearer's debut. He had just transferred from Southampton to Blackburn, and a pre-season friendly, and we beat them 3-0.
And you scored in that game?
Always Thunder.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Fantastic. But then again, as everybody in Scotland will tell you, Who remembers friendlies? Now let's let's read. Let's read. Stephen, it says, remember Torrey Andre Flo? He was never worth what was paid for him. He was a good player, but Chelsea knew Rangers were desperate to get him, so they held out. As Alison said, a player is worth what a team are prepared to pay for them. I mean, honestly, I think it was because of the nature of the season as well that was unfolding. Torrey Andre Flo scored some good goals. I mean, if you ask Barry, he was a good player, Torrey Andre Flo. The problem was, I think he scored 20 in that season, but it just wasn't enough in the overall race for the title. I mean, I think he was harshly judged in that one. But Thomas Jones says Peter Martin is obsessed with Glasgow Rangers. And then Thomas goes on to make a derogatory statement. Thomas, this isn't the show for you, son. You need to go in the gutter somewhere else because, quite simply, we talk about every team. It's as simple as that. It's for journalists, for pundits, for former players. It's about every team. It's a football show. That's what we do. You need to go to some kind of club forum where you can just all wallow in nonsense. Anyway, apart from that,
he's obviously not been listening to the show because we all know it's Hearts.
What? I know. I have to tell you. I mean, honestly, I am being absolutely battered for defending Hearts, and I will not back down from it. I still think it's. Anne Budge summed it up perfectly at the top of this programme with her press release. Shameful. It is absolutely shameful what's happened to the three clubs, Hearts, Partick Thistle and Stranraer. Although I have to say, Roughie, I have been critical of your club for your conduct in the what I call WhatsApp Gate alley. You know, when they all colluded on the WhatsApp group. Don't think I've forgotten about that alley. When suddenly somebody reveals, are we all going to vote this way together on a WhatsApp group? I mean, seriously, Ali. Sporting integrity.
But as we know, as the season has been going on, there's been a lot of WhatsApps of people joining together and asking lots of other things. So I don't think we can rest just with us.
No, but let's not get into
it. To expand on that?
I'm sure. I'll all come out in the wash.
Ali, that was brilliant the way you just tried to reel him in there, but he wasn't going for it. Fantastic. But in saying that, to be perfectly honest with you, Roughie, what you've just said in the last 10 seconds is what we call, in radio terms, when we used to do the phone in, it's called whataboutery. Try and forget about our misdemeanour and then throw it on to someone else. Yeah. But we're not having any of it. You were bang out of order. Stephen O'Donnell is training with Hamilton Accies, but he's not going to sign for them. I think he wants a club down south. He thinks he's got unfinished business down there, Ali, possibly in the Championship.
I think he said as much. I think he'll maybe just have to be patient at the minute as the English window just gears up a bit. I think it'll take a few weeks now just as they conclude their games before it gathers any pace. So I think he's maybe just wanting to keep his fitness going, but I think he said himself he was keen to go south of the border and test himself. He obviously has international ambitions to sustain. So I think it'll just be a case of having to wait and see if there's an offer that comes in for him.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something else here which just caught my eye there. I was just about to mention it. Yeah, Brendan says, can you say hi to Paul and myself, Brendan? We're listening in Saudi Arabia. Absolutely we can. We're delighted that you joined us on the programme and you're part of the football family. Don't forget, if you're on Facebook, you can like, share and follow us, and on YouTube, subscribe. It doesn't cost you a penny. It doesn't even cost you £20 to listen to Darren and Alison. There's no pay-per-view here, by the way. You're straight in there for free. Roughie's free, and as you can see, every now and then you can tell when Roughie's been on holiday. He just looks like a bronzed Greek god there. there at the moment. And Roughie, I'm glad you got some sun, because there's no sun here at the moment, although there is with Brendan and the crew in Saudi Arabia. We're delighted that you joined us. Thank you very much for that. And Niall Kane says, Peter, are the teams still making the T-shirts? This is not the show for you. We will fire them out for Christmas, but we'll be giving them to decent people like yourself, Niall, who follow us on a regular basis. Kelly have signed Danny Rogers, Roughie. Good goalkeeper, former Don's goalkeeper. Good acquisition.
Yeah, I think he was disappointed. He never got a chance up at Aberdeen, and he moved on, and he's moved on 2 or 3 times. Yeah, I think he's a keeper who will do, if he's given a chance in the first team. I don't think he'll let anybody down whatsoever. No, I think it's good, but I think at his stage of his career, he wants to try and establish himself as a number 1 rather than a backup.
Yeah. Roughie, John Lundy has come on and he says, I played golf with Roughie a few years ago at La Manga Club in Spain. What a nice guy, a gentleman. That's a nice compliment. Do you remember John? Can you describe him to us, Roughie? What was he like?
Well, I can remember him playing the golf. If he happened to meet me in the piano bar afterwards, I don't think I would have remembered what he looked like.
No, I knew right away by the blank look in your face. He's got no recollection of you whatsoever, John. But the fact you've made a nice compliment about him, thank you very much for that. Darren, what about your old side, Dundee United? They've got Luke Bolton on a loan deal from Manchester City. So clearly at this moment, Mickey Mellon now starting to do the homework, working with Tony Asgar and trying to get the recruitment right.
Yeah, of course they need players in, Peter. There's no doubt they won the championship easily, but they know the step up's going to be massive, and they've started with Man City. Yeah, I don't know. I've not seen the boy. I don't know what he's like, but he's coming from Manchester City, so you think he's got a little chance. And again, they'll be looking at defenders. They'll be looking at midfielders. People are taking their time just now, Peter, because I don't think they've not got a lot of money, so they're not bringing in everybody. And at the start, they're looking to see, Mickey will give people a chance because he's just come in the door. He wants to see if they can perform in the Premiership, and then he'll go out and sign who he thinks he needs. But there's no doubt they need players. And obviously Stevie Frail's going in there as assistant manager, so he'll be able to tell them about the Scottish game as well, and if there's players out there that he thinks could do well for the club.
Alison, East Kilbride are looking at Anthony Stokes. I mean, I don't know about you, but I can't even smile about it, because East Kilbride are a club with ambition, but Anthony Stokes, what a huge talent. Now, I know he's got Premier League medals and he's got Scottish Cup medals, but that lad could have had so much more in my mind.
It feels like you almost feel like saying to Lee Griffiths in some way, have a look at what your career might be. And I don't mean that in any means or disrespect at all to East Kilbride, but you are absolutely right. He was a boy who was international class. He should have had a career at the very top level, and a career that should have set him up long into his retirement. But I think sometimes when there are distractions, off-field distractions, and you get pulled by them in the wrong direction, it has such an adverse effect on what's a very short career anyway. I know there are sacrifices to make, and I think we can all preach and sound pious at times about them, but ultimately, if you want to sustain playing at top level football for 15 years or so, you have to adhere to the structures and really knuckle down, I think, and just keep a sensible head on.
Yeah, I mean, Darren, was there a point, can you think of a time when maybe you knew there was a line in the sand where you had to knuckle down and maybe leave a couple of your mates behind because it's the ultimate sacrifice?
Yeah, well, Peter, obviously I was at Meadowbank and I was working, and so I went down to Newcastle. So it was kind of different then, because I was away from home, and then I moved back up to Dundee. So I wasn't in kind of that environment. And I know Anthony's come over from to Sunderland and then up to Falkirk and Celtic and all that, and it's hard. That's the hardest thing, Peter. That your pals can go out on a Friday night and enjoy themselves, but it's no sacrifice. It's the best. And I'm being biased. It's the best, Raphael. It's the best job in the world. The best job in the world for me. The sacrifice is enjoy yourself on a Saturday night. It's fine. Nowadays it's different, Roughie. When we played, we could go and have a few drinks, and there wasn't camera phones, and there wasn't social media for people to say, "Oh, look, he's out again. He's drinking again." But all I'll say is that you're only here once, so you've got to enjoy yourself to a degree. But be a professional and enjoy it for as long as you can. You look at look at Scott Brown, who Tommy Johnson went down to see Celtic last week at Loughborough, and he saw Scott, and he said he's looking absolutely trimmed and ripped, and he's 35. You want to go as long as you can in the game. It's an amazing game, because it's horrible. I can tell you, it's horrible when you finish and it's over.
Yeah, it's wise words from you, Darren. And again, I know those sentiments will be echoed by Roughie. You know, when you think of your career in the early days, Roughie, you know, people make sacrifices. They don't want to go out and, you know, they wouldn't marry a Miss Scotland, or maybe go out for a night out with a Miss World, or indeed maybe drink just a couple of nights before the big game, or indeed go out and laugh in nightclubs and have great fun judging beauty contests. I mean, all of those things potentially could have been there for you, Roughie. And you decided, what did you decide, Roughie?
Like Darren. like Darren. Just like Darren. I didn't have to really knuckle down, because like Darren, I knew what was expected any time I turned up for training. There's a standard that you have to perform to, because your teammates look upon you, you know, to maintain that. But there is a dividing line of working hard and enjoying yourself.
What is that standard?
There is a standard. You owe yourself. I mean, I know it might find hard to believe that you can believe it now, but certainly when I played, you know, I had a level that I knew I needed to be at, to particularly get into a Scotland team playing with Partick Thistle. So I must have been doing something right. But I would agree with you. I don't know if I would have survived the modern day regime of what's what Darren said there. I probably would have done, but looking back to our day, you know, it would have been a difficult one to get your head around. You know, the way that the players have to act now. But you would have to, because if somebody's paying you, somebody's paying you £10,000-15,000. You have to be. Like Lee Griffiths. If you don't do it, you're not going to be there, and that's what you've got to put up with. The only thing I would disagree
I also think the culture's changed so much too.
Yeah. The thing I would disagree with Darren was, I mean, sometimes you have to take a camera with you on a night out. So, you know, the camera thing. Just take the
By the way,
just
Ali,
to let everybody know who you're with. You know?
Ali, let me tell you right now. If social media was about when Roughie was playing in 3 World Cups, Roughie would be on every front page for about 10 weeks solid. He would not survive. Yeah. Now, I have to tell you, as the ultimate professional, for some people who are younger who don't recognise what he was all about, he'd be a top, if it wasn't for the clubs and how they used to actually have a vice-like grip on players, he would have been playing at a top club in England. There's no doubt in my mind. He was a fantastic goalkeeper. You don't go to 3 World Cups playing for Partick Thistle of all teams. No disrespect to Partick Thistle, but you go to 3 World Cups, it's a top drawer goalkeeper. But he wouldn't have that mob wouldn't have survived that he hung about with. In social media, they'd have been done in within 2 weeks.
I mean, the actual Scotland team would have been done in. You know, that's just the mentality. It's on a night out, you went out and enjoyed yourself. You know, and I'm talking about top-class players, but when a Saturday comes, you know the demands that are there, so, you know, you have to perform, and if you don't perform, then hell mend you, you know, but the actual social side of football, when we played, I have to say, I enjoyed myself for 20 years. I thought it was, as Darren said, you couldn't get a better job. You couldn't get a
Yeah,
better
absolutely.
job. You couldn't.
Look at Ali trying not to smile, trying not to smile as Roughie sums up 20 years of madness. Ali, it was a different time.
It's a completely different time. I think that there's just been such a vast change in dressing room culture, if not societal culture. There's definitely a huge change within dressing rooms. I think from a very young age, like players now are schooled in eating choices and exercise habits and the need for that extra 1 or 2% that you get from proper hydration and properly fueling after games. And I think that starts from the youngest of ages, so that at the time, if you do make it professional, I think it's almost second nature for many, which I think probably would highlight it even more. If you're not adhering to that, I think it probably makes it stand out a bit more, especially now when you think of going into clubs, and I think your everything is tested first thing in the morning. Your urine's tested to see if you've got any stress levels there, if you're properly hydrated, if you've properly recovered. I just don't think there's anywhere to hide if you're not in peak physical condition. They're athletes now, almost first and foremost, and then they're football players. And I think given the finances involved in the game now, you just don't get away with the same things that you would have.
Yeah, absolutely. And that rule applies, Ali, for journalists as well over the last 20 years. I have to be honest with you. To be fair, Roughie, absolutely, I'm not going to hide from it. The rules have changed dramatically. A couple of things now, just to read out. Thanks to Alison Sarah Carroll, who's a regular and a top fan on our programme. Alison says, Roughie was a top drawer goalkeeper with a perm. Simple as that. You're absolutely right. Let's not knock the perm. It was actually cool at the time. Each to their own. Also, Ali, you just joined us there when I said the same rule. You missed this comment, Ali. The same rule applies to journalists over the last 20 years. Oh, how times have changed, Ali, in our sorority and fraternity. Is that fair?
Oh yes, saying nothing.
Brilliant. It's the first time you've just broken into a big beaming smile.
One dressing room's changed more than the other.
Yes, absolutely. Ali, you're absolutely right. I can tell there exactly what you're talking about by your eyes alone. Anyway, yes, a good point you make. Lots of people sending his messages, and thank you very much for that. Terence Duke hasn't really got anything major as an opinion. He says, Darren, is there any chance you could bring your head down a bit? So clearly he's not happy the way you're looking in your camera angle, Darren. But nevertheless, people do that. Now I've just got to say, when you he's like Gulliver looking into Lilliput there. That was magnificent, Daz. Listen, the other thing I was going to say to you is, what a good signing, Darren, for Brighton, Adam Lallana. I thought he was a really good player. I mean, he's got his Premier League medal for Liverpool, and I'm sure he gets a few other medals for being on the bench at the Super Cup, maybe the European Cup as well. Good career, good player, and a good signing.
Yes, I watched quite a bit of it, Peter, and I think he's quite an emotional guy as well. I think they gave him a send-off in the dressing room where he broke down. I saw him leaving the training ground where he broke down. I think the biggest disappointment for him was that he had too many injuries, because I think I've spoken to Andy Robertson about him. He said he's an unbelievable player, incredible ability, and just picked up too many injuries to get a sustained run in the team. But Klopp put him on the bench. I was quite surprised in the last game that he actually didn't. He put him on the bench just for sentiment, and his last game at Anfield, I was actually quite surprised he didn't put him on. But I suppose as a manager, what you think of the whole squad, and it's not about Adam Lallana, but I think he can hold his head up. I think he'll be well thought of at Liverpool forever. Especially being part of the Championship team and Champions League. So he's made a good move. He thinks that's a good move. I thought there might have been other teams, and this is no disrespect to Brighton, I thought there might have been other teams up the league a wee bit that kind of fancied him. I was quite surprised he went there, but he's thought that's the best move for him. So good luck to him, and he's had a fantastic career. And as I say, he'll be in the hearts of Liverpool fans forever.
Yeah, I still think there has to be a wee bit of sentiment in football, because at the end of the day, Liverpool had won the league. Throw him on, let him say farewell to everybody. Here's what Adam Lallana had to say about his move.
I look how ambitious the chairman is to start off with. How highly regarded the manager is as well since he's come into the club. He's obviously changed the dynamics and the style, and to do that whilst keeping the team in the division, I think's a fantastic and a difficult job. So I looked at all them aspects, and I looked at the squad and the training ground facilities and the stadium, and it was a perfect fit really. So I'm really excited to get stuck into the challenge, and hopefully we can push on again next season.
Yeah, good player. Good luck to him. I like him as a player. Just one other little footnote here, Roughie. I noticed Sir Alex Ferguson announced Jurgen Klopp as the LMA Manager of the Year. He also mentioned that Klopp phoned him at 3:30 in the morning to say Liverpool had won the league. Now, knowing Sir Alex as I do, there must have been, Roughie, a few expletives back the other way to Jurgen Klopp at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I particularly think so. Depending on how many bottles of red wine Sir Alec had at 3:30 in the morning, I'm sure he would have got some kind of reply. But no, I think that's good. I think that's great, the banter between managers and things. You can do things like that and actually have a laugh and a joke about it.
Yeah, he was very sincere in his congratulatory speech to Jurgen Klopp. I think Sir Alex is one of those men knows how difficult it is to win the Premier League in England, and well appreciative, even although he's a Liverpool manager, of the feat achieved by Liverpool this season. It's been absolutely extraordinary. Incredible stuff. Listen, we're getting ready for the countdown to the start of the new season. We're certainly looking forward to it. Can you believe it? It must be, Darren, I know you will be gobsmacked by this, but you're talking about 15 weeks. We've been battering away with special guests aplenty and just chatting about the madness that's unfolded. Suddenly we'll get a chance to talk about football.
Brilliant, Peter. Yeah. We've had a few hard weeks. You and Roughie every day. It must have been hard at some point. And I mean being on with Roughie. I don't mean what you were talking about.
Right.
No,
Cheryl has just reminded me, Darren, it's 18 weeks. 18 weeks!
Yeah. So it has been hard. So I think everyone's excited. I can't wait for the weekend. It is different, there's no doubt. I've enjoyed the English games as much. You can't enjoy them as much without crowds in, Peter. But it'll just be great. It'll be great to be back on the television and watching Scottish football again. And I'm buzzing for it.
Yeah, really looking forward to it, Alison. Although the fact is, I won't be able to obviously have a chat with you because you'll be so far across in the other press seat. I obviously I just need to wave to you. But
if we get a seat, at least if we both are lucky enough to get a seat, it's 15 journalists. And it's not a lot.
It's not a lot, isn't it? I mean, they're really cranking it up. I really hope we do get it into most of the grounds. It's a strange situation to be in. I hope it finishes quickly and everybody can get back to some kind of normality. But nevertheless, just getting in is good, Ali.
Yeah, indeed. But what I would say is the Joint Response Committee didn't. It might have been pertinent to think about inviting maybe some representatives from the PR side of thing and maybe someone from the journalism side of thing to have some input into the numbers, because the number of 15 in terms of journalists and right holders going into the game just seems to have been plucked from thin air.
Yeah.
Why don't you take them to arbitration? Stay on the whole road.
I'll just settle for some form of compensation.
Yeah. Ali, I've opened a crowdfunding page as we speak. If you've got James Anderson's number, we're in with a shout, Ali. We might get an extra seat. Anyway, I'm going to try like mad to get to see as many games as I possibly can, so that we can bring you the best coverage. Of course, it's the #1 football show in Scotland. The figures are there. You can't fabricate them. You can go and check them. I want to thank everyone for supporting us across Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We're live across them. We're live on Periscope as well. We are with you 5 nights a week from 4 o'clock onwards. You can watch it at your leisure, or you can join us live. There's going to be fabulous competitions coming. There's going to be lots more exciting stuff. Stick with us on the Football Show. You've got a panel of experts, former players, and of course, great journalists, Ali being one of them, that will give you an honest opinion, and we'll have a fair bit of fun with you as well, because after all, it's only a game. It's a sport. We love it. We're passionate about it. And if you want to join us, and tell your friends as well, like, share, and follow our page on Facebook, and you'll get this programme at any time you want, whether you're here in the UK or across the world, and also on YouTube. All you have to do is subscribe. It costs you nothing. There's no pay-per-view on PLZ. Join us if you can. From Darren, Alison, and Roughie, thanks for joining us today. Have a great night.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit Arnold